people at the district are the most likely the ones that can do anything to actually help that clinic. And no longer, they might actually not have access to information anymore too. So I'm just trying to kind of show some of the things you have to think about when you look at systems. So what we really need to do is come up with systems where the information goes back to the sub-district, goes to the district, for them to check it, and then it finally becomes available at the Ministry of Health. Another really important thing to realize is that, hey, it's cell phones, it's a miracle. Technology is going to solve everything. It helps, but it's not going to do any good if it doesn't support systems that exist. You can't call for help if there's no ambulance to pick you up. If that ambulance doesn't have a road to drive on, it's not going to do you much good. Okay? So you have to look at strengthening existing systems. That's really should be your focus. Another thing is that sometimes it's really not about the technology, it's more about what that technology is trying to make visible or to show. India, about 10 years ago, released something called the Right to Information Act. It was actually put in place by the Prime Minister because he was sick of the corruption that was happening at the low levels. The government spends a lot of money in trying to help the poor in India. But unfortunately, a lot of it doesn't get there. About 80% stolen along the railroad tracks, they said. So what they did is they said, let's put all public spending. So public spending is government spending on like public works projects. So in this case, it's like water projects in India. So what you can do is you can go to this website and you can view every borehole, every pipe, every laboratory put in place. You can see how much was spent and who spent it. So now village boards are popping up. They print these things out. They go line by line through these things, and they make local politicians accountable. Like, hey, why does your cousin keep getting all the work? Okay. And it seems, it's just that one simple act is making a huge difference. The interesting thing about what's happening now in India is the prime ministers forgot that, corruption is like a rotting tree. It starts in the roots, but then it goes up, right? So now they're in trouble. Every day they're in trouble for really, really high level corruption. They're starting to rethink this right to information. Okay? But it's something I think we need to look at. I think it's a model that I think a lot of countries should hold. So sometimes it's the simplest act by making something public, open data. That's most important. So this is me, to the left, my little brother. We were born in a village in Cameroon. It's probably the only photo that exists with me having hair. But we were really lucky. Part of it is I grew up in West Africa, in Cameroon, in Senegal. And then after going to school, realizing I wanted to change the world, I got the chance to actually go to Mali, and I was the head geek at this organization called the Geek Corps. The lesson I learned, and ever since then I've been at Columbia, now working in Africa in 10 countries, pretty much nonstop, now working in India. But I think I'm pretty proud. Like, I'm a white African, I know West Africa, stuff like that. But what I really realized is the more I spend time in Africa, the less I actually really do understand it. Really understand local context, okay? One trip does not make you an expert, okay? It's a trap you're all going to fall into a little bit, so just caution yourself a little bit on that. The results of it are things like this, okay? Can you see that? I mean, come on. A worm-free family with a bunch of white people wearing a tie-dye shirt eating at Denny's. I mean, okay? This was a photo I took at a stocked-out pharmacy in one of the slums in Kenya. Okay, so good intentions just gone horribly wrong. Okay, so this is a really bad example, but it happens. Like I made dumb things like this that I thought looked clear, but I'm sure for the person I was trying to help, it was probably just as stupid. Okay, so just kind of keep that in perspective. So a lot of good intentions and a lot of fail, okay? You don't want to create, the other thing is basically, are you creating a service that people actually want, okay? Not what you want to give them, what you think is a good idea, do they actually want it? So you have to have that in kind of your back of your mind. These are just my personal stories of failure I'm kind of explaining to you. I actually came across this today, and I think it's really just talking about the 3 cups of tea, 3 cups of deceit stuff going on. But I think it's really true. Instant development is a myth. Okay? The guy, this Timothy Berg is saying, the thing that he's seen the most impressive development projects, the most innovative he's seen in Africa is a university, a local university. They're focusing on their future, laying the groundwork. They're focusing just on their one campus. You know, they realize soberly how difficult it is. They're staying focused to that, okay? And I really like this. Tie a string on your finger, write a cheat sheet on your wrist, whatever it takes, and you see a lone crusader telling you that he's dedicated his life comprehensively to fixing some faraway place. Don't believe it, okay? And I'm not trying to discourage you from doing this, but just keep it in context to be part of the solution, which I'm going to talk about. So being part of the solution, I feel like, and this is something I struggle with, so well, what can I do to help? And I've been inspired by, you know, I know a guy named Kwame Archibong, who's south of Kumasi in Ghana, and he's somebody with some basic education, a little bit of understanding, is started to make tools for his community. So this down there is a cell phone charger. It's a big wooden block with D-cell batteries, 2 wires, and you can charge phones. He also makes his own lights. Okay, so it's just batteries, a little cell phone reflector. So this is somebody, you empower him with a little bit of education or tools, and they're able to come up with their own solutions, one that's well adapted to their needs using local parks. Okay? Here's another proof of somebody that did not need help to have an amazing solution, okay? He's the analog blogger. If you go to Liberia, he's on the side of the highway, and all he does, he has a network of journalists all across the country, you know, his sources. He calls them every day, gets their prices. He goes to the local cyber cafe, prints out the news, has photos, he has some advertisements on the bottom. And his job is basically reading the news and contextualizing it for his people, the people that walk by every day, the people that might not be able to read, and he's a journalist. I met him at Maker Faire Africa, and the whole time he was antsy because he was in Ghana. He says, I need to get back to Liberia because my people need me, okay? We tried to do this with SMS and billboards and Clever Idea in Ghana. It was a complete, utter failure because the people we hired weren't this guy. They weren't journalists, okay? So it has to be about the right person, too. All right. Dixon Ukanga is the first Kenyan I was smart enough to hire, okay? And he's a person that made me realize that Africa is ready to cook, okay? So, first of all, let's kind of go through these pieces, okay? Does everybody know what to do? Programmers? All right, this is my generation, right? So, Mountain Dew page. Mountain Dew is an essential ingredient for successful computer programming. All right? So let's go back. So what happened? I took this photo in Kisumu the day I was orienting Dixon I just hired. I went to the grocery store, and sure enough, for the first time ever, and I've been in Africa a long time, and it was the thing that me and my brothers would try and smuggle back when we came home, was Mountain Dew. I was like, oh my goodness, right? It was also the week that fiber, which Lila mentioned, connected East Africa. So no longer are you sipping through the straw, which are those satellite dishes, which are horribly expensive. Internet in Africa before in East Africa was downloading your email, checking a website, streaming YouTube. Are you crazy? No way, okay? Now you can stream YouTube on your phone just as fast as you're here. So all these things kind of came together. You think that's fortuitous? No. So I was pretty excited.